Good morning. I know the cold is keeping a lot of folks away, and we're so glad that you braved the elements to get here. Thank you. My name is Maria Vallejo, and I'm the provost of the Lake Worth campus, and it is both an honor and a privilege to welcome you to Palm Beach State College 12th Annual Martin Luther King Breakfast Celebration. This is being telecast among all of our campuses, so hello, Palm Beach State. It's wonderful to have you all joining us in celebration of Dr. King's birthday. This is the second of a 3-year theme we've titled Dream, Act, Serve. Today, we are honoring those who have felt the call to action, men and women who have and continue to work to achieve Martin's dream through their acts, not just their talk. There are 3 individuals and an organization that have and continue to shape the future of Palm Beach County, always in the spirit of Dr. King. And we are so lucky to have them with us and for us. They remind us of what Dr. King always wants us to remember, that we have more in common than that which divides us. It's my pleasure to introduce Nicole Banks, who's the Dean of Student Services at our Boca campus and will be your Mistress of Ceremonies this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Vallejo, for a warm welcome. We need that, it's so chilly out. And good morning to everyone. Once again, I'd like to acknowledge those who are participating with us across the district via streaming video in Boca Raton, Belle Glade, and at our Palm Beach Gardens campus. For almost 28 years in the United States, Americans have all celebrated the federal holiday to attribute to the work of Dr. King. They've celebrated with marches and rallies, programs, interfaith breakfasts, keynote addresses like we'll have today, all with the goal of making it impossible for us to forget that Dr. King was a minister, an activist, a hero, an icon for civil rights. These activities make it impossible for us to forget the crusade that he led for human rights and dignity, and impossible for us to forget the revolutionary tactics of civil disobedience and nonviolence. It's good that we're all united here today, representing this great state and country, representing the Palm Beach County, and representing the former Palm Beach Junior College, Roosevelt Junior College, Palm Beach Community College, and now Palm Beach State College. That deserves an applause. We know that this is an auspicious occasion, and it is a celebration, and yet still our hearts are heavy. Our collective hearts are heavy today, heavy with hope for peace and the end of the conflicts overseas, heavy with compassion and grief, as yesterday marked the anniversary of the devastating earthquakes in Haiti, and heavy with hope for civility, as we're all still shocked from the mass shooting in Arizona last weekend. Can we just pause for just a moment of silence to reflect on compassion, hope, peace, and civility? Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise, stand as we have the colors presented by the Palm Beach State Criminal Justice Institute Academy, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag and the Star-Spangled Banner, which will be led by the Palm Beach State College Troubadours. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave, home of the brave.
Thank you. I wish you could see yourselves in the audience. Do this for me for just a moment. Take a look around. Appreciate the diversity of people in this room. Appreciate the diversity of people who would stand united and say that they were affected, are affected, and will continue the dream of civil rights and the work of Dr. King. At this time, we'll have opening remarks from the chairman of our Board of Trustees, Mr. William Berger.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Gowan, fellow board members, staff, faculty, students, guests, and to the Reverend Warnock and to our outstanding honorees. Good morning on behalf of the District Board of Trustees. Welcome to Palm Beach State College's 12th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Breakfast, honoring the spirit and celebrating the legacy of a great man. Martin Luther King would be 82 years old had he lived. I had the pleasure in 1966 as a young man of observing Dr. King speak at a commencement ceremony at Hofstra College in Long Island, New York. His words then resonate like most of his words. And Dr. King would be appalled at the tragedies that still go on in this country and throughout the world, and the lack of respect and dignity for each other. We can't forget that, and we have to keep striving in his honor and in the honor of many other great people, past and present, to just make sure that we don't forget the importance of our great country, what it has to offer, and that above all, we have to respect the opinions of each other in a nonviolent way. I'm deeply honored to be here to greet you on this special occasion. Dr. King was a man of integrity, a man of dignity, a man of great courage, who spent his lifetime fighting for freedom and equality for all races and people. I'm glad that our nation's leaders, although it took some time to get the legislation passed, saw fit to keep his memory alive through a national holiday, which we'll officially celebrate on Monday. But Dr. King's fight against segregation and injustice should be remembered and applauded every day. Hatred and bigotry should not be accepted under any circumstances. Dr. King said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and we should not accept injustices anywhere. Let us not walk away from here today, let the holiday pass, and go on with our lives, forgetting about Dr. King and his dream. Every day, we should wake up thankful that we can go home and come as we please, sit where we want to sit, dine where we want to dine. Every day, we should be thankful that the doors of opportunity have been opened for all people, regardless of their race or color. And we all should do our part to serve mankind. Dream, act, and serve. That is what it's all about, isn't it? I hope you enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
Lift Every Voice and Sing was written 110 years ago by James Weldon Johnson as part of the celebration of a birthday celebration for President Abraham Lincoln. The lyrics convey patriotism and hope for the future for Black people, as well as speaking out subtly against racism and Jim Crow laws. In 1919, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, adopted it as the national anthem, the Negro national anthem, and it became widely distributed across the country in Black churches. During and after the Civil Rights Movement, more than 50 years later, the song became prominent again and was commonly sung immediately following the Star-Spangled Banner at public events and performances with significant African American participation. I share that for those students who've asked me over the years why we sing Lift Every Voice after the Star-Spangled Banner. Please join us now as we're led by the Palm Beach State College Troubadours, and we'll sing Lift Every Voice and Sing. You can find the lyrics inside your program booklet.
Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father tears has been watered. We have come, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Dominique Didi Desir will introduce our keynote speaker, and as she comes, I'd like to tell you a little bit about her. Ms. Desir graduated from Palm Beach Community College in 2008. I'm told that her dream is yet to be discovered, but she's working on it diligently. This past spring, she graduated from Hampshire College in Massachusetts, and she earned a bachelor's degree. And she's going to continue pursuing her dream and serving the community. While she was a student at Palm Beach Community College, she was very active in clubs and organizations here on the Lake Worth campus. Ultimately, she became the student trustee. Please welcome Ms. Desir. She comes to the podium, and I'd like to say welcome home.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be home. I love PBCC, or Palm Beach State now, but I love this place. In this introduction, I want you to catch the spirit of the speaker before he approaches the mic. We've got to get up, get dressed, the words I heard from his mouth. Get up, get dressed, there's work to be done in this house. Tell your father, mother, sister, brothers, and friends too. Get up, get dressed, and get going because the work isn't through. I chose this quote because it represents the ongoing struggle of social and civil rights which Dr. Warnock has taken on all his life. And we can never assume that the work is done. We can only assume that we shall overcome. End of quote. So do more than just listen to the words that he speaks. I mean, yes, the words are powerful, but no doubt they came from his feet hitting the streets. And like a poem, sometimes a walk can be deep. So I hope his words move you further from the comforts of your seat. Practical, because the speaker addresses more than just the visible threats. Black women have been the object of too much violence, from the rap of yesteryear to the hip hop of today. That's what I heard him say. You just need to hit the pavement because the work is in the street. He looks back while moving forward, but certainly does much more. He remembers to look on the skirts of society for those who've been cast on the floors. And like a good shepherd, he watches his sheep. The community is his church, and the church is his street. The proof is in the pudding that Dr. Warnock has done just that, with unconventional programs like Cutting Through the Crisis for Those Who Have Fallen. With Beyond His Morehouse education, this man of God truly knows his calling. Train a child in the way he should go. Son of Pentecostal preachers, I hope you should know that he was destined to take on civil rights and stand on the shoulders of those who've taken on the fight. No wrong, no right, just evident that service is his life. Now please stand and applause as the Reverend Dr. Raphael G. Warnock approaches the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Warnock.
Well, all I can say is, wow. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Dominique, is it Desir? Yes. First of all, for that very warm and kind introduction. I've got a few more speaking engagements this week. Can I take you with me? Very generous and kind introduction. In fact, I can only think of one other time, Dominique, when I received a better introduction. The person who was supposed to introduce me didn't show up. and so I had to introduce myself. Thank you so much. It's great to be here at Palm Beach State College. I want to thank your president, Dr. Dennis P. Gallen, for his leadership and his work in this community and in this college community. And to your former president, whom I met a little while ago, President Ed Easy, who's sitting there in the audience. To William Berger, chairperson of the Board of Trustees, to our mistress of ceremonies, to these young people who led us so wonderfully in music. Let them know how much we appreciate them. My good friend Van Williams, whom I've known a long time. We grew up together in the city of Savannah, Georgia, and I've known him a long time, so don't ask him too many questions. But thank you so much, Van, and for your leadership and for your work in this community. It's so very, very good to be here. And you all know by now that I'm a Baptist preacher. And so you have to talk back to me. How many of you have ever been to a Baptist church? If you've been to a Baptist church, you know that the sermon or the dialogue, well, it's just that. It's a dialogue between, there you go, he's got it, between preacher and pew dwellers, between the person who speaks and those who listen. It's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. You all looking at me like you still don't understand what I'm saying. Presbyterians get nervous if you talk back. We Baptists get nervous if you don't. So let me help you out. I want the folk here, right here to my right and your left. You're the amen corner. Just pretend you're at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And if I say something you like, everybody, just say amen. Even the frozen chosen, just say amen. If I say something that's a tough saying, you agree with it, but it's hard to swallow. It challenges all of us. I want the folk over here to say, have mercy. You all over there, you the have mercy crowd. Come on, you all got to help me on this, by your standards, frigid Thursday morning. You're the have mercy. Now, I know you say have mercy, but it's have mercy. And if I say something you don't agree with at all, but you just want to, help me along so we can get through this together, the folk in the balcony, you just say, Lord, help. All right? Let me try this. Let me try this one time. We're here to celebrate Dr. King. Amen. Let me try that again. I said we're here to celebrate Dr. King. Amen. The wrath of the Lord is terrible. Wouldn't it be great if I spoke for the next 3 hours? Lord help. I want to talk this morning about unfinished business. Unfinished business. Dream, act, serve. Every time I think about it, I must admit that I am amazed that in the history of our great nation, no person, past or present, no person, black or white, red, yellow, or brown, has articulated with greater eloquence and clarity, with greater power and precision, the meaning of something called the American dream than the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We take it for granted, but think about it. It's really a powerful fact. And it's deeply ironic because Dr. King grew up in the segregated South. He grew up on Auburn Avenue, where I still preach. But he grew up in the days where there was this little diddly that said, if you're white, you're all right. If you're black, get brown, get back. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're brown, perhaps you could stick around. It's a kind of poetic diddly that gave voice to the madness and the ugly side of our legacy. And yet Dr. King emerged to speak about the American dream. He stood up in August of 1963 and he said, "I have a dream." And he said that it is a dream that is deeply woven in the American dream. He refused to give up on America. He loved the nation. His was a deep kind of patriotism, a patriotism we need in this hour, because very often nowadays, if you critique the country, if you say that we can do better, people have a way of challenging your patriotism. Too often the flag and patriotism are used as a cudgel to describe or characterize folk as inside and on the outside. And yet Dr. King had some of the harshest words for America, and yet he loved America. We need to lift up the "I Have a Dream" speech, but don't forget that he called America the greatest purveyor of violence on the globe. It was the prophet's way of saying we can do better. It was the prophet's way of standing in the present and yet getting a glimpse of the future. And so when he dreamed, it was not the kind of dream that comes when you're asleep. It was not the unconscious movement of the mind that is not engaged in action, but it is the dream of the prophet. And now more than ever, we need somebody who has enough courage to dream. Because dreams cause us to move beyond the realm of the present and reach toward possibility. God knows we need dreams, because dreams are by their very nature an affront to the status quo. We need dreams because dreams are God's way of calling us to holy discontentment with things as they are. We can do better. We need dreams because dreams urge us on to righteousness and restlessness with the world as we know it. Dreams are the subtle songs of the soul that echo the vast difference between who we are and who we, by the grace of God, might become. Said Langston Hughes, "Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow." And so we thank God for the dreamer. We thank God for his work. And yet, even as Dr. King engaged in his work, he knew that he would not complete it. One of his mentors, the Reverend Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, longtime president of Morehouse College, said that a man's reach ought to exceed his grasp. And so Dr. King reached for a goal that he knew he would not reach during his lifetime. And yet he continued to dream, and Langston Hughes helps us out again. Langston, the poet, says, "I dream a world where man, no other man, will scorn, where love will bless the earth and peace its path adorn. I dream a world where all will know sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. A world, I dream, where black or white, whatever race you be, will show the bounties of the earth, and every man is free, where wretchedness will hand its head, and joy like pearl attends the needs of all mankind. Of such I dream our world." And so Dr. King didn't just dream, his dream was put into action. His dream was put into service. Dream, act, serve. And so what was his career? What was his ministry? What was his vocation about? We all do well to reflect on it again this morning. It was a 13-year journey from 1955 to 1968. But we ought to engage it with discipline and the kind of seriousness of mind that would cause us to reflect not only on those times, but the implications of those times for our own times. 13-year journey, but the first 10 years of the journey He came to speak against and offer poignant and penetrating analysis of what he identified as the triplet evils of racism and poverty and war. And while he was concerned about all three during his entire public ministry, the first 10 of the 13-year struggle, 1955 to 1965, could well be characterized as a response to the first, racism, and the nuances of its complicated relationship to the second, poverty. And so during those first 10 years, Dr. King and those who struggled with him were busy opening doors so that African Americans and others traditionally locked out of access to the American mainstream could walk inside of the doors. And so it was a battle that played itself out in the public terrain. Black folk were asserting their civil rights and their human rights. They were arguing that they had a right to be counted, to be considered, to be respected, to be educated, to be housed and hired, to be in charge, Mr. President, and in command of things critical to one's own well-being or the well-being of the company or the school or the firm or the university or the nation. Black folk were asserting their right to be respected as human beings. And Dr. King didn't fight alone. Very often we look at the men in the struggle, but the only reason Dr. King could stand up is because Rosa Parks sat down. Because she was courageous enough to recognize that the only thing more tired that day than her feet was a soul that was tired of being trampled upon, as Dr. King said, by the iron feet of oppression. And so those first 10 years were focused on opening up the doors. And thank God that even as we struggled, as the movement matured, there were other folk who recognized that all of us are a part of the same race, the human race. So it wasn't just black folk who struggled during the civil rights movement, and we've got to make sure that our children understand that it was never just a black thing. That Dr. King, when he opened the doors so that black folk could walk through the doors, it wasn't just black folk who were liberated, the entire South was liberated. You wouldn't have all of these sports teams and these franchises in the South. You wouldn't have the wealth and the prosperity that the South now enjoys had we remained segregated, had the talent of some of its most brilliant people have been continually marginalized. And so they gave voice to the hopes of all of us, and other folks struggled with us. Two Jews and an African American, Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman, lost their lives in the deep, dark nights of Mississippi. White people like Viola Luiso, whose name needs to be heard, a white woman, the wife of a Detroit Teamster Union member, who lost her life struggling for what was right. They gave us a vision of who we all could be. And so the movement at its height was multiracial. It was multifaceted. It was a rainbow movement. And yet at its core was indeed the spirituality, the faith, and the culture of the black church. Hear me and don't misunderstand. The black church has been the conscience of a nation because it is the only church in America that was literally born fighting against racism. America's abiding and original sin and its deepest social contradiction. The black church was literally born fighting for freedom. I know some folk who don't understand the history get mad when you say black church. Understand, I'm not asserting any kind of chauvinism. Matter of fact, if you were to visit the Ebenezer Baptist Church this morning, you'll see that we are a multi-ethnic congregation. But there is such a thing historically in the country as the black church, because when this nation was founded and on Christian principles, there were those who tried to make that which is irreconcilable reconcilable. Christian faith and slavery. And it was black folk who said, no, Christianity and slavery are incompatible. And so they said, if we've got to sit in segregated seats in a church, we'll walk out and establish our own churches. And so they started the African Methodist Episcopal Church. They started Black Baptist churches. And they started these separatist institutions not out of a spirit of segregation, but as a way of bearing witness to the fact that of one blood God has made all nations to dwell upon the face of the earth. And so, for decades, they worked in these churches. And they struggled in these churches. And they found ways to support each other. They founded their own life insurance companies when you couldn't buy life insurance. They found a way to educate their children, and from the basement of these churches, like Ebenezer Baptist Church and Friendship Baptist Church in Atlanta, where Spelman College was founded. What I'm trying to get you to see is that Dr. King did not emerge out of nowhere. He did not emerge ex nihilo, out of nothing. And contrary to some of the early interpreters of Dr. King did not get his voice and his vision from Crozier Seminary and Boston University. They helped to sharpen his vision. No, he got his sense of the human race and the fact that we are a part of the beloved community. He got that from the bowels and the basement of an African American church that continued to bear witness to God's love and God's justice when the rest of the nation refused to recognize that of one blood God has made all nations to dwell upon the face of the earth. And so they organized and they worked quietly for decades in the basement of those churches, and every now and then they spoke out publicly on behalf of freedom. We're glad that Dr. King fought for voting rights in 1965. But did you know that his father, pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, Martin Luther King Sr., led a voting rights campaign in 1935? Imagine that. You think it's courageous in 1965. Imagine the courage of a preacher standing up and saying everybody ought to have a right to vote in 1935. In the cradle of the Confederacy, his grandfather, his maternal grandfather, A.D. Williams, the second pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, fought for the first decent public high school for children to attend in the city of Atlanta at the turn of the century. And Martin Luther King Jr. and his siblings attended the high school for which their grandfather fought. So I retraced the history so that you would recognize that he did not appear out of nothing and out of nowhere. He stood on the shoulders of activists, of men and women who came long before him. He was baptized in a culture and in a church that was born fighting for freedom, where his ancestors had sung, "Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free." He gave voice to a church, and when he stood on the public stage leading a multiracial movement, what is it that gave him his power? It was the spirituality of a people born in slavery but who continued to dream. And so what's the passion and the power behind his voice? It is that very culture. Have you noticed that when Dr. King would speak, he had a way of holding syllables a long time? He had a way of saying longevity. He didn't get that from Boston University. It's what we call hooping. It's when preaching moves into singing, because our religion is sung. And he just polished it up for a mainstream audience. longevity. He didn't get that from Boston University. It is as if in every syllable he carried the weight and the burdens of 244 years of slavery and 100 years of Jim Crow. Every time he spoke, it was a way of saying we're tired. It was a way of saying with Fannie Lou Hamer, that sharecropper who stood up to the Democratic Party, it was his way of saying we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So thank God for Dr. King. Thank God for those who fought with him, like Fannie Lou Hamer, who in 1968 stood up to the Democratic Party, said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And because she stood up in 1968, Barack Obama could run and win in 2008. So in those first 10 years, Dr. King was busy opening up the doors of the mainstream, fighting primarily against racism and to some degree poverty, because the two are so inextricably linked in America. But then in those last 3 years, he, by his own admission, said that he was a man of shattered dreams. In 1963, he said, I have a dream, but later that same year, that dream began to explode literally in the basement of a Birmingham church where 4 darling little girls lost their lives. We think of them, and now we add a 5th little girl as of last week, who will be remembered perhaps like those 4 little girls in the basement of a Birmingham church. Our struggle against the worst demons of our nature continues. Dr. King was optimistic between 1955 and 65, being the theological liberal that he was, committed to the dream of America, relatively optimistic. He said in one speech that segregation is on its deathbed. He said the only question is who's going to preach the funeral. But then that dream began to shatter and splinter as those 4 little girls were bombed in a Birmingham church. And then as he traveled from the South, from down South to up South, and began to see the ugliness and the recalcitrance of racism in places like Detroit and Newark and Harlem and Watts, Los Angeles, began to see the things that the Urban League sees every day. And he turned to Bayard Rustin, one of his advisors, and said, you know, I fought so that these people could sit at a lunch counter and order a hamburger. He said, now I've got to fight so that they can afford a hamburger. And so he began to fight against racism and poverty, began to lead a poor people's campaign, began to plan the poor people's campaign, and he died fighting against poverty. And that is part of America's unfinished business. He died fighting for garbage workers. He died fighting for the best that America has to represent. And he died drawing inconvenient connections between our inability to have a war on poverty and our obsession with the machinery of war. Yes, I said it, we're still dealing with a country that is yet to deal with its obsession with militarism. A country that he called the greatest purveyor of violence on the globe. Harsh words, but think about this, we spend more money on defense today than the next 20 nations combined. So the next time you hear folk talk about fiscal conservatism, recognize that very often the issue is not spending the money, the issue is what do we spend the money on. So I just dropped by this morning to tell you that we still have some unfinished business. As long as we can spend money on war, but people are offended by comprehensive health care, we still have some unfinished business. As long as we have a growing, profit-driven, prison industrial complex where it costs more money to put somebody behind bars, and we'd rather spend that money than to educate them at Palm Beach State College. We've got some unfinished business. We're 5% of the world's population. The United States of America, 5% of the world's population. And yet, there are 9 million people in prison worldwide. 2 million in prison in the United States. There's something sick about our nation. Mary Wright Edelman is right. We've got to cut off the pipeline that leads from the cradle to the prison. We've got some unfinished business. We've got unfinished business right here in our own hemisphere. We could help Haiti if we would. We've got some unfinished business 1 year after the devastation. Can I just say very quickly that Haiti ought to be in our hearts and on our minds this morning. And their tragedy did not begin a year ago, but it is a long history of a valiant people who stayed committed to the work of freedom against all odds. They did what no other nation had ever done. The slaves in Haiti rose up and defeated the French. They said, excuse my French, but y'all got to get the out of here. Led their own revolution that inspired black folk who were still in chains in the United States of America. And because they overthrew the masters and took over the channels of government, they've been paying for it ever since. They are the world's pariahs, and we could lift them up if we would. We've got unfinished business, and then who could not pay attention to the tragedy in Arizona on last week? It's too often the worst demons of our nature, expressed not only through guns, but sometimes in our speech, rises up to destroy us. And yet with Dr. King, I still have a dream. I still have not given up on America, because America is a great nation, and we can indeed be a greater nation. And very often we are a greater nation because of the voices of those on the margins of the society. America is a work in progress. I like to call it a freedom train, a freedom caravan that moves from stop to stop. And each time it picks up some more passengers who help us to see what freedom is all about. Whites landed on these shores, and Patrick Henry, remember that great revolutionary leader, said, "Give me liberty or give me death." I wonder sometimes what Patrick Henry would have said if his slave had said, "Me too." Whites thought they understood what freedom was all about, but then black folk landing on these shores as slaves spoke up and said, "Wait a minute, you can't get there without us, me too." And then self-congratulatory men thought that they had it all down pat. They thought they understood what freedom was about. But then the women's freedom and suffrage movement emerged. And women began to fight for their vote and said, "You can't get there without us. Wait a minute, me too." And then we Christians have sometimes been largely unconscious of our religious bigotry and the ways in which we have been inhospitable to those who embrace other ways to the center. We've seen that ugliness emerge right here in your own state, as there are preachers who would burn the Quran. And there are Christians and some black who don't have sense enough to know what's wrong-headed with that. Don't you know that the folk who burned the Quran today were burning the cross on yesterday? And so every now and then, Muslims and Jews and Hindus and others have to stand up and say, "Wait a minute, me too." And then well-abled folk who, with sheer stupidity, dared to place outside of their houses of worship and public signs that said, "Whosoever will, let them come." There were no ramps, no lifts, no effort to be sensitive to those who were differently abled. And then the disabled stood up years ago and said, wait a minute, me too. And we got the American Disabilities Act passed. I'm saying that America is a freedom caravan. And every now and then we pick up some more passengers, and they help us to see what freedom is all about. And it doesn't matter what you think about gay marriage. We can debate that issue. But what I hear our gay sisters and brothers saying is that we are human beings too. So we got unfinished business. But as I close, I tell you, we will finish. We will get there no matter how improbable the victories seem, we will get there. The reason I know is that very often what seems to be a local movement has larger national, even cosmic implications. There is in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia this thing called Cedar Creek. It is an amazing phenomenon. 244 feet beneath the arch, somehow this creek, like a surgeon's knife, a tiny little creek, has pressed its way through the mighty rocks of a mountain, paved its own path, a little creek, in the middle of a mountain. And if you were to ask Cedar Creek, what makes you so bad? How in the world did a tiny little creek manage to win improbable victories? How in the world did you manage to push your way as a little creek through a mighty mountain? The creek would say, if you really want to see something impressive, don't look at me. I get my strength from something much larger than me. And you might say to the creek, well, little creek, what is that? The creek would say, go down to Lexington, Virginia. Because down in Lexington, there's something called the James River. And the James River is really big, but if you were to go and ask the James River, what makes you so bad? The river would say, what do you mean? It would say, well, it is the river that pushes the creek, and the creek has made its way through a mighty mountain. You're mighty bad, James River. You know what the river would say? The river would say, don't look at me. If you really want to see something amazing, you ought to go down to Hampton, Virginia. Why, James River, do you want me to go down to Hampton, Virginia? Because there's something much larger than me. It's called the Chesapeake Bay. Matter of fact, I have to go through there every 24 hours in order to recharge and get my strength. And don't you know, it's not about the river. It's really the bay that pushes the river. And the river pushes the creek, and the creek makes its way through a mighty mountain. But if you were to go down to the Chesapeake Bay and say, oh, bay, what makes you so bad? You know what the bay would say? The bay would say, don't look at me. If you really want to see something amazing, you ought to go and stand on the shore and speak to the Atlantic Ocean. But can I tell you that because I'm from Savannah, Georgia, I'll take a risk and admit to this savvy, sophisticated, petty bourgeois, upwardly mobile, technologically savvy congregation and audience that every now and then I've had a conversation with the Atlantic Ocean. And I ask the ocean, 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 what makes you so bad? How in the world did the ocean manage to push the bay, and the bay pushed the river, and the river pushed the creek, and the creek has made its way through a mighty mountain to win improbable victories? You know what the ocean said to me? The ocean said, don't look at me. I get my power from the pull of gravity from the great God who orchestrates the sublime movement of ocean currents. And so wherever you are this morning, you just keep on pushing through the mountain because the battle is much larger than you. Behind the creek, there is a river. Behind the river, there's a bay. Behind the bay, there is a mighty ocean. We shall overcome someday.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our president to present a plaque for our speaker.
Take Faith Parker.
We have to thank Dr. Warnock for such a moving message and a call to action, challenging us to know our history and come out of denial and address our unfinished business. Thank you, Dr. Warnock. Our next musical performers are a duet, a brother and sister team, Faith Proper and William Proper. Both are students at Palm Beach State College. We discovered their talent here at the college in 2009 when they were the winners of the NCBAA. Too many N's and C's and B's happening for me this morning. They were the winners of the Comedy and Talent Explosion on campus. Amen. Lord help her. William is planning to graduate this spring, and he dreams of going on to pursue further education and ultimately become a history professor, probably right back here at Palm Beach State College. Faith is a sophomore as well, and she dreams of becoming a lawyer in the United States military one day. Both students are active members of Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society, and they're going to join us and bring us a message.
I pray we'll find your love. Hold it in our arms. When stars go out each night.
L'eterna stella sei.
Remind us where you are.
Nella mia preghiera.
Let this be our prayer.
Quanta fede c'è.
When shadows fill our days.
Lead us to a place.
Guide us with your grace.
Give us faith so we'll be saved. Sogniamo un mondo senza più violenza, un mondo di giustizia e di speranza. Ognuno Dio, ma non vicino, simbolo di pace, di fraternità. La forza che ci dà
We ask that life become
il desiderio te.
watch us forevermore.
Ognuno trovi il
We hope each
modo
soul will find
turno dietro sé.
another soul to love.
Let this be our prayer.
Let this be our prayer.
just like every child,
just like every child needs to find a place.
guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be saved. El again, soy siento que ci
That was beautiful. It's no wonder the faculty and staff and friends of the college, we know that we're blessed and we know why we do what we do. Give another hand for our students. And I should also mention that Faith Proper is our student trustee this year. Thank you. The annual presentation of the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Awards affirms our commitment to developing and supporting leaders for the local community. Our interest in serving this community is wholehearted and deeply rooted, and the individuals who will receive the awards today have shown themselves to each truly possess a servant's heart. To present these distinguished awards, please welcome our president, Dr. Dennis P. Gallen.
Thank you, Dean Banks, and good morning. It is so good to be able to have the opportunity to stand here and welcome all of you here for this 12th Martin Luther King breakfast. Faith, I'm not sure where you are at this point, but we're going to have you and your brother William perform as you just did at the beginning of each board meeting. From now on, what talent. Bill and I were sitting here saying we didn't know that was our faith. But it's so good to have her, perform like that. And the other students and our professor for what you have done as well. And thank all of you for coming out this morning to cause us to be able to say that this 12th Martin Luther King breakfast, was a success. If it were not for you, we would not be able to say that. You're talking about one-way communication, but that would not make it, a successful occasion. And I tell you, Dr. Warnock, Reverend Warnock. Thank you so very much, for being here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be our speaker. And certainly, all of us have been inspired. All of us would be able to leave here today, I am convinced, knowing that there is hope, that it is possible for dreams to be achieved. You all may not know this, but a few years ago, we had another speaker to come here to speak to us, Dr. Butts. And I was telling the group last night about how Dr. Butts said that he had this young man that at one time was a part of his congregation and a part of his ministry. And he said that if you want to have another speaker at some point, and I was asking him for a recommendation, he said, you should be able to get for this occasion an individual by the name of Reverend Warnock. And he recommended you highly, and I brought that name back to the MLK Speech Committee, and I'm not sure what happened last year, why you did not make it, but I tell you, I'm happy that you're here today. Your presentation has been exceptional. And I could not help but think, as you were making your remarks, how the message of Dr. King and what it was all about. You know, Dr. King's message was a tireless message. It was a message of hope. It was that message of peace and equality. And I could also think of what a long time. I think it is a privilege for me to be able to stand here and say that I was able to hear those words coming from his lips. But so many of us, you know, did not get that opportunity. But I tell you, I also know that there are individuals who continue to inspire us. And I would tell you that your words and your commitment to assuring that his dream will live on certainly will cause us to be able to do that as we trod this earth, because his words certainly was inspiring to all of us. So thank you very much for being here today to be with us. You know, there are those who would attempt to try to suppress his message and even sanitize his message. But I tell you, as long as we have individuals like you carrying that message, I'm convinced that it would be around for a long time. You know, Dr. King was recognized and celebrated in so many ways, as has been said already here today, through naming of streets, naming of buildings, naming of monuments in his honor. And there's even a monument now that is on the horizon in Washington, D.C., where we will have another place to be able to visit. And in countless other ways, he has been memorialized. And all of those, in my opinion, you know, are justified because of the impact that Dr. King had on not only this country, but this world in his very, very short lifespan. And so what an outstanding way in which he has been able to influence us. You know, and there are countless others, as has been said already. There are individuals who continue to work to inspire, who work to bring about peace and equality. And we have some of those individuals here in Palm Beach County. And a part of this program is for us to be able to shed some light and lift those individuals up, which is a significant part of this program. And as has been indicated, those individuals that we want to recognize are in 4 different categories. We want to recognize an individual who is an alumni, a graduate of this institution, who is a current student, and who is an individual in the community, as well as an organization. And it's my pleasure to do that at this time. The first individual that we want to recognize is the individual that will get the Alumni Award. And his name is Devin Robinson X. Our first recipient is in the business of education. Devin Robinson X has made educating youth and adults about HIV and AIDS a great part of his mission in life. And he's been successful in getting his message across in very unique ways through the speaking of his original poetry as well as on monologues. Devin enrolled at Palm Beach State in 2003, and he was very active in the institution throughout his matriculation here. He was a member of the Student Government Association, the Black Student Union, Phi Theta Kappa, and many other organizations. For his work here and in the community, he has been presented in many ways through entertainment, Black entertainment, through MTV, USN, NBC, National Public Radio, BET, and et cetera, and also through many written publications like the New York Daily News. In addition to his associate degree from Palm Beach State, he's also received a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Florida Atlantic University. We should all commend Mr. Robinson for his accomplishments and his vision to serve others in the community, and we are proud to claim him as one of our own. Will you now have Dr. Robinson X to come forward for the presentation? Okay. This award will read Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Award for Alumni, presented to Devin T. Robinson X, Palm Beach State College, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Breakfast, Dream, Act, and Serve, and signed by President Dennis Gallant. Thank you all so very much for recognizing him.
I wanna thank first God and all my mentors, especially Mr. Ruffin and the whole Ruffins, for making this possible. I want to tell you guys something about dreaming. 15 years ago, my mother passed away. On December 23rd, I bought the tombstone for my mother. So for 15 years, we would go to her grave and put flowers on nothing. We would have to guess when my mother was being laid. We had to guess for 15 years. But as a 27-year-old man, I put the money in to buy the tombstone for my mother. I want you to understand what a true dream is. A dream is in Sistrunk, where I was raised, where I was able to bring MTV to Sistrunk, something that's never been done before. Seeing little boys who had book bags over for 55-year-old book bags knew that their mom and dads were crackheads and wouldn't be able to go to school, but they went to school every single day knowing that they had a dream because they saw Devin T. Robinson X on TV in that same neighborhood going to college. And every single day, holding up, wearing suits every day, buying suits from the thrift store, buying suits from Walmart, just so they knew that they didn't have to dress like everybody else, that they knew that they didn't have to do what everybody else did and sell drugs on the corner. They didn't have to do that because Devin didn't do it. And Devin's on TV. Look at Devin. And that boy can dream. He can dream because I did it. And I had people that backed me and said that, Devin, all you have to do is keep doing it. Like Mr. Ruffin, like everybody who said, just keep doing it. And I sat back and I kept dreaming. And I didn't just let it stay there. I said, no matter what I'm going to do in my life, I'm going to let other people dream. I'm going to do whatever I can to show little boys and little girls all across the world that I did it because people believed in me. And I believed in myself. And I never stopped for one moment to think that I couldn't do it. Because it was embedded in me at birth that I was here for a reason. That this was no fluke. This is no joke. I don't come up here to play leader. Like, I don't do that. Never in my life have I played leader. I don't sit there and do the hand gestures, the face. I don't do any of that because I believe that I'm here for a reason to change somebody's life. This award to me means the world because I'm 27 years old as an alumni that they decided to give me this award. That means that I had to do something. That somebody, a group of people, had to believe that I was worth something for this award. I want to tell you guys as I leave the stage that I haven't stopped dreaming. That I'm not going to stop inspiring people to dream. I'm able to say that my 11-year-old nephew, his dream in life is to be me. His dream is to be me. He's 11. He doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be Batman. He doesn't want to be Lil Wayne. He doesn't walk around with his pants hanging down. He doesn't want to sell drugs. He says, that at 11 years old, he wants to be known as Little X. Little Devin T. Robinson X, that's my nephew. Because he saw me dreaming, and I didn't stop at just dreaming. I started making my dreams reality, and I didn't do it with millions of dollars. I didn't do it with millions of people behind me. I had about 5 people that said, boy, just go. And I did it. So you can, no matter what they say, you can do it. And if you ever doubt it, remember what I just said, because you can. Thank you. Thank everybody.
Very good. Congratulations again, Devin. The next awardee is a student who is currently enrolled at the institution, and his name is Albert Moore. Even though Albert faced some overwhelming challenges during the early developmental years of his life, he has overcome those challenges that have fueled his passion for an education and community service. After high school, he served as a specialist first class in the U.S. Army and as a reservist in the United States National Guard. He started his career at the Florida Department of Corrections in Belgrade and then later worked for the Broward County Sheriff's Office as a detention officer. Earning a degree, a college degree, was Mr. Albert Moore's dream, and he has achieved that goal when he received his associate degree in criminal justice right here at Palm Beach State College. He's well known by many students and faculty in the college as he matriculated here. And he served in numerous roles in his volunteer work, such as the Student Government Association, as he led the Haiti relief effort, which has been spoken about already here this morning. Dr. Moore's desires to continue working toward the betterment of the community and great causes to present, and we're delighted to be able to present him with the Dr. Martin Luther King Leadership Award. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Moore. This award reads the same as the others, and it only has, the only difference between this one and the other one is that it has your name on it. Good year. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm still kind of in awe about this award. This has got to be the easiest award I ever received in my life. You know, not being arrogant or conceited or anything. You know, when you're not competing for an award, don't even know you are in place to get an award, you know, it's got to be the easiest thing to do in the world. But I got to go back to, you know, what they say about a dream. Basically, my dream got destroyed when my father died. And at the age of 11, I had to take on the role of being a father of 8 other siblings. My mother is disabled. She was to the reception with me last night, but she couldn't make it today. She's partially paralyzed, so the cold weather get her stiff, you know. But my dreams, you know, I wanted to go to college, but I never dreamed of being in college. Other people had this dream for me. You know, it goes back to that old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a kid. It goes back to, well, first what my father instilled in me, you know, the survivor role. My father was a hunter, and so he instilled survival means in me. And but I quit school. Well, you know, I go back to the IQ test where the lady told me I was considered mentally retarded. I'll never be able to function in this world, so that has killed any kind of dream I ever had. I thought I would die at the age of 21. And I lived a life that I could have died at 21. You know, I done had pistols pulled in my face and pistols misfired, you know. And but I quit school. My mama caught me doing some stuff I shouldn't be doing. After she knocked me upside my head, I still may be consigned some file some child abuse charges against her. I'm considering that. And she told me, so you going back to school, or you going to work? And the only work that was available for me at the time was farm labor. I did not want to do any farm labor. I was born on a farm. And so I decided to go back to school. And I met this young lady at the time, my girlfriend. Now, she set up a plan for me. Every time I skipped class, she had all her girlfriends in place in every one of my classes. They would take notes. They would get the books from me, because a book was not my concern. They would have the books. They're like, boy, this homework due tomorrow. I'd be up on the street corner, they riding through. Boy, this homework due tomorrow, we got a test Friday. And I'm looking like, why are all these girls so concerned about me? So now I'm like, and my baby, she was like, you can't touch me if you ain't did that homework. So you know that's a motivator right there. So I had to do that homework. And I made honor roll my 11th grade year, but I didn't cherish that because I thought that, this is just something they gave me. I'm a dummy. This is just something they gave me, just to get me out the way. And I graduated, I decided to go in the military. And all my jobs was always offered to me, and the way they would do it to me, they was like, you can have fun doing this if you would just do this. And so I became a nuclear weapons assembly. And you had to have a top secret clearance to do this. And I was doing it just for fun. But my mom got sick, I had to come home, come home. I went into law enforcement. Somebody asked me, how would you like to work in law enforcement? I said, I need a job, I need to eat. I went to, I became a captain because somebody asked me, how would you like to do this job? Or I need you to do this job. And I would just do it because now, I'm getting the mindset that I want to learn things, but I'm still thinking I'm a dummy. And at the age of 35, I had to say, man, you're a dummy. You need to start learning and take control of your life. That lady lied to you. So I started teaching myself to read and write. I was a functional illiterate. I would watch. If I wanted to do anything, I would just sit back and just watch. I would be the quietest thing in the room. You wouldn't even know I was in the room because I wanted to learn something from you. If I had to do a report in law enforcement, if you did the best reports, you would find that I would always be around you. I would get copies of your reports and just fill in the blanks, what I need to be done. So my girls in my life motivated me. My mama, my girlfriends, even here at Palm Beach State College. Don't think Miss Olivia Morris and Shona Castile, Penny McIsaac will not put you to work. They will work you. And Dee Dee DeShira got me involved in school. She would say, Mr. Alfred, I need you in my SGA. We need non-traditional students. I'm thinking, what is a non-traditional student? All I know is I'm a student, But she got me involved and moved on from there. But you forget the men in your life. I used to hate men. Because all I knew was men trying to take advantage of my mama's house. I used to hate men. But then I had to realize I'm a man. So how can I hate men? That means you hate yourself. So I went back and I thought about the men in my life. From my father, in the military, I got in some trouble. I could have went to prison. But some men took care of me. I got in college because an old white gentleman, I didn't even know the man. When I transferred to Broward Sheriff's Office, some stuff was going on he didn't like. And he knew I was the captain with the prison system. He said, man, how can you sit around here and let this stuff go on? No, you know the policy. You need to do something. I'm comfortable. They're not messing with me. Here's your problem too. Then you got to think about it. It's my problem. If I sit around and watch this injustice go on and not do anything about it, that is my problem. And then he used to curse me out every day. You need to be in college. I'm like, man, I'm not college material. You need to get your so-and-so. What you mean? Man, can't anybody assemble a nuclear weapon. Can't anybody run a prison. And I'm like, listen, man, get out my face. I'm not college material. But he harassed me enough till I came to college. I prayed for a C. I made A's, so I would ask the teacher. I actually dumbing us to go to the teacher like, maybe you graded this paper wrong. I'm not A material. And the teacher looking at me like, what? Like, listen, I'm not A material. Maybe you made a mistake, something like that. Like, man, go ahead on. And so, it just started, and then students started gravitating toward me. Mr. Albert, I need some help with this. Professors start asking me, Albert, I need you to talk to a student for me. Like, man, I'm gonna be late for class. I'm a visual learner. I'm gonna be late for class. Oh, don't worry about that, I got you. I taught this student I'm late for class. When I get to class, oh, here your homework, this is due. I'm like, what? I still had to do that work though, and here's what other people dream for you, then they re-instill the dream in my life. Now I'm starting seeing things where I'm starting to dream. Sometimes I go home, I can't sleep because I'm dreaming about this. Or maybe I can do this. I want my community to be better. The dream is for real. Thank you.
Very good. The next award is for an individual. And the person that we want to recognize is a person who has spent more than 3 decades focusing on the needs of our community and working to keep Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy alive. Her name is Mercedes Bush. It takes a great leader to run an organization, and this amazing woman has been doing just that. Mercedes Bush had been working to keep Dr. King's legacy alive and reminded all individuals of the struggle of the past and hoping that they would be able to appreciate the privileges of today. Through her work as head of the Martin Luther King Jr. Coordinating Committee, she has impacted West Palm Beach community, particularly our youth, in a tremendous way. While she has not done this work alone, she has been a driving force behind this committee. Matter of fact, I sometimes refer to her as the Elmer's glue, not only of this committee, but this community. You may ask her, why is she doing all of this? After teaching school for 32 years and serving in the capacity of coordinating committee. And why does she do this? I think that it comes from various reasons. It could very well come from because of the fact that she was born in Alabama, and her father was a community activist and president of the NAACP chapter in Alabama. And she may even tell you that she may have gotten this volunteer trait from him. But it wasn't that. She grew up in a segregated Alabama, witnessing and experiencing injustices as a child, and just one day she thought that maybe I would be able to help others who have received injustices. Ladies and gentlemen, will you help me recognize Mercedes Bush for the Individual Leadership Award?
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Warnock, for such a powerful, inspirational speech. With humility, I accept the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Award with thanksgiving to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thanks to you, Dr. Gallen, for 12 years of the breakfast. Wonderful. He doesn't miss hours either. Thank you, Palm Beach State College family. Thank you to my lawyer friends and supporters, to the selection committee, and those who have supported us through more than 30 years in an effort to promote peace and racial harmony in our community. When we say with liberty and justice for all, is that really true? When we say that all men, women, children, boys and girls are free, are created equal. Is that true? We've got to make it true. Our 14 annual events led us, and Dr. Warnock, I hate you've got to go, but before you visit the Dr. Martin Luther King Landmark Memorial at 2400 Flagler. And for those who have not visited there, please do, because it reflects on what Dr. Warnock says. It is a continual monument to Dr. King. Dr. King has said, you do not have to have a college degree to serve.
That's right.
You don't even have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. And with your help and with God's help, I will, and I'm sure our Martin Luther King Coordinating Committee will continue to serve this community with love. Congratulations to the nominees and the awardees. God bless you. I thank you, and I love you.
Okay. Congratulations again, Ms. Bush. The next category for the award for this program is for an organization. And our final honoree is the Urban League of Palm Beach County. You know, it is almost common knowledge, if you were to go to any major city in this country and you ask for the identification of organizations that are most impactful on that community in improving the quality of life, invariably you would find that the organization of the Urban League is on that list because of its mission. And in Palm Beach County, you know, there is no exception. The Urban League of Palm Beach County served more than 15,000 individuals in 2009-10 through its youth and education activities, through comprehensive housing counseling and community development programs, including workforce development for youth and as well as adults. It has a new high school credit recovery dropout prevention program. The Urban League of Palm Beach County also is helping families through housing in many different ways. And this organization has been recognized not only locally, but nationally. It is recognized by the National Urban League as well as many other organizations. It is no luck that this Urban League is so successful because of the leadership and the supportive board that exists for the Urban League, and I'm delighted to be able to invite to the podium at this time Patrick, who's a good, dear friend and an individual that I've worked with throughout this community. If you want to go to a table where good is being done, you will find his feet under that table. And so it's a delight for me to help you. Will you help me welcome and present this program to Patrick? Very good.
First of all, I'd like to take another second and thank Brother Warnock for a tremendous message, a true message from a true alpha man. Thank you very much, and I know all my alpha brothers are here, and our president is here also today with us, Brother Jim Davis. My name is Patrick Franklin, President and CEO of the Urban League of Palm Beach County. On behalf of the Board of Directors, the staff, and I know I have a lot of members here. Please stand, my staff and board members. This is the heart of the Urban League. We're scattered throughout Thank you very much for being here, supporting and what you do every day. I accept this award on their behalf and all the residents that we serve throughout Palm Beach County. Dr. Gallen mentioned that we served 15,000 residents last year and growing. That was last year. I anticipate that we get close to 20 this year. I'd like to thank the trustees of Palm Beach State College, Dr. Gallen and his staff, for allowing the Urban League of Palm Beach County to be a participant in this great tradition. Today's theme of Dream, Act, Serve fits the profile of my organization in many ways. Dream. Our mission is to help African Americans and other minorities attain social and economic equality. Act. For the past 37 years, the Urban League has provided housing counseling, housing development, job training, placement, youth programs, after-school programs, crime prevention programs, community development programs, and development of disabled case management to our residents throughout Palm Beach County. Serve. Over the past year, 15,000 residents came to our door in Palm Beach and Martin County. Dr. King once stated the following: I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. The Urban League will continue to work hard to meet the needs of families scattered throughout this county, seeking support in housing, jobs, our youth, education, and civil rights. Thank you for this great honor and recognition of a great American. Thank you very much. Thank you. Congratulations, Patrick. At this time, let me recognize some other individuals who played a significant role in the program here today, and we cannot overlook Dee Dee. Dominique, will you come forward, please? We want to share with you a small memento. Of course, that inspiring introduction that you made is appreciated by Dr. Warnock, and I'm sure that all of the individuals here in the audience really appreciate what you've done. Thank you very much. Very good. And the last but not least, I want to invite to the podium once more again, and he said to us last night, that as a Baptist minister, you can't even say amen in 5 minutes. But we're going to take a chance, and we're going to ask you to come forward. And again, we want to present you with this recognition of a plaque. Thank you again for the inspiring words and the role that you played today to making this program a success. And again, congratulations to all of those who have been recognized. And it is indeed an honor, for this institution to have played some significant role in causing the legacy of Dr. King to live on forever. And so thank all of you for coming. Thank you for your willingness to stand and serve and be a drum major in our community as well as in our state and nation. The college appreciates all that you have done, all that you do, and all that you will do in the betterment of humankind. And again, before I end my role here, again, let me just thank all of the members of the District Board of Trustees who are here. Bill, thank you very much for your participation. Faith, I hope that you're still out there. Thank you again for the role that you have played.
I'd also like to thank the MLK Celebration Committee, and particularly the chairman of this committee, Ms. Juanita Benjamin. Juanita, where are you? You're down there now. Thank you for all that you've done, for this institution, particularly for this program. As I stand here now and think about Dr. King and the fact that he is looking down on us here today, I'm sure that he's proud of what we are doing here, even though I know that we have not come to the point where he would be completely satisfied with this community in this country. But I really do think that he looks down on us for what we are trying to do and for what we are attempting to do for the betterment of this community in terms of dreaming, acting, and serving. At this time, let me turn the podium back to our Master of Ceremony, Dr. Banks.
Thank you, President Gallen. I hope that you all truly have enjoyed the program. We strive very hard to give you a great experience. The committee has continued the theme for a second year, Dream, Act, Serve, which you've heard a number of times this morning. Dream was the emphasis last year. This year we emphasized act. I'd like to share with you some words that were written by an unknown author that says, action is indeed therapy. It erases doubts and fears, anxieties and worries. It capitalizes on failures and mistakes and turns them into positive influences. It exercises the mind for problem solving and creativity. It develops poise to provide a backup plan. It calls for the best in all of us, and it becomes the password for success. Action is work, and work is happiness. Dream, act, serve. I'd like to also announce one change in our program. The question and answer session with Dr. Warnock will take place here in the Duncan Theater as opposed to in Stage West. I hope that many of you will remain. We'll have other students who are coming in to join us. The program will be facilitated by Associate Dean Susan Bierster. And now we come to the close of this auspicious occasion. Please join us as we practice another of our traditions, and we will sing together, We Shall Overcome.
Please move together to the center, join hands with those around you, reach across the aisles, back and forth. Let's sing together. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Thank you.
Be inspired. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Nice.